Hello and welcome to LSN News. The headlines this Tuesday lunchtime. Liverpool Catholics are stunned by the shock resignation of the Pope. We have an exclusive interview with the Archbishop of Liverpool, Patrick Kelly. Hundreds of jobs are to go with the closure of libraries and one of the biggest stores on Merseyside. And Gung Hei Fat Choi is the start of the Year of the Snake in the Chinese calendar. But first, we start with the news. That a key change in the law means fresh inquests into those who died at Hillsborough can now take place in Liverpool. Government justice ministers have changed the Coroner's Act to remove a restriction on whether hearings can take place. Lawyers acting for the families of the victims say they are delighted the inquests may not now take place in Sheffield, where their loved ones died. They say many of the families will not have to cope with the trauma of having to return to the city. The change comes months after a decision by the High Court to overturn the original verdicts. We'll bring you more on that when we get it. To other news. Liverpool's Catholic community has been left reeling after the sudden resignation of the Pope. This will make him the first Pope to resign since the Middle Ages. Callum Metcalf reports.
After being head of the Catholic Church for nearly 8 years, Pope Benedict XVI announced his decision to step down today. As there hasn't been a papal resignation in nearly 600 years, this move came as a shock to the world, including Liverpool as a city with deeply religious roots.
Just totally surprised and shocked, really.
Yep.
We didn't know anything about it at all. It was just announced, and I heard the lady behind me, she was sort of said, oh my God, she was quite shocked about it. Well, somebody has just said to me we should have a black Pope next. I think he's done all right. I think he's perhaps not suited to the public office in a way. He's more of an academic, I think. And I don't think he's used to coping with the modern world, shall we say.
Well, first of all, like many people, a total surprise. But I found my immediate reaction, almost in the same breath, was gratitude and admiration. Admiration because it's typical of the man I've known for quite a few years, that he puts first and foremost the well-being of the church and his service of the Lord and the church, and therefore decides very clearly and firmly, if I've not got the energy to carry on this service which the Lord has entrusted to me, it's time to hand that on to somebody else.
In his official statement, Pope Benedict blamed his old age and his deteriorating health for his decision.
I gather he has referred to the fact he was finding his energy, his levels were not what they were, and the demands were simply beyond his strength. That's what I gather. Oddly enough, the night he was elected, I was asked, somebody said, well, of course, the church has chosen a rigid, hardline conservative, and I said, that's not the man I know. I think when he came to our country, we saw how warm he was, the way he related to the Queen, the way he related to young people. We had a man of great wisdom, of integrity and of real compassion. Well, the cardinals have got to meet and choose a successor. And if anybody said, well, who will it be? I think all the last four have been surprises, so it's very silly to say I think I know who it will be. It was always uplifting to hear him speak, and he gave you a wider picture you just didn't even think of. So I think wisdom is the gift. The cardinals will meet together and they will choose his successor, as they've done over the centuries, so we do not know who they will choose. I don't think it will take very long. I don't think the interregnum will be a long one. I suspect within a month of the day when the Pope is going to retire, we will have a new Pope.
If you could have a message for people in Liverpool practicing Catholics, what would you say to them?
To give thanks for a great Pope, to give thanks for the wisdom he showed us, to give thanks for the 3 books he gave us called Jesus of Nazareth. Again, all his life was focused not on himself but on the Lord, and those 3 books sum it up.
The Vatican has announced that it expects a new Pope to be elected before Easter this year.
Over 100 people are to lose their jobs with the closure of one of the largest stores on Merseyside. Staff at the Rapid DIY store in the city centre have not been paid at all this year and now have been made redundant. Rapid Hardware has been a well-renowned company since it opened up in Liverpool in 1971. But the store, which sells household furnishings and electrical appliances, amongst many other things, has been forced to go into administration.
When it was in Renshaw Street, it was easier to get your paint or get your carpets and put it in your car if it was parked outside. Now, the likes of this, if you wanted to get that, how would you carry it out the shop? It's just sad, and it's an iconic store, and I just hope they come to some kind of a solution.
The store is hoping an investor will come along to rescue the shop located at the old John Lewis building on Williamson Square and Basnett Street. The warning signs began in 2011 after Rapid reported pre-tax losses of £2.2 million.
I'm sorry to see it go, and I'm sorry to see that people are going to lose their jobs, you know what I mean?
Another victim of the recession. All the workers can do now is wait and see what happens. Meanwhile, another 80 jobs are to go following the decision to close half of the libraries across Merseyside. Those that have been marked for the closure include ones on Edge Hill, Walton and Great Homer Street. Owi Patel reports.
Well-needed libraries are set to close in Liverpool, and opening hours slashed in 17 others. An estimated 76 jobs will be lost as City Council bids to save £2.2 million a year from its £8 million library budget.
Behind me stands Liverpool's historic Picton Reading Library Room, which has just undertaken £54 million worth of regeneration. However, this has come at a loss, as over half of Liverpool's libraries are now set to close.
The Central Library, once it reopens in a few months' time, will be the only library in the city open 7 days a week.
They're amazed at the outcry that there's been from the general public about the closure of the libraries, which is lovely, but it's quite surprising because the majority of people don't use a little public library at all. And it is, in some cases, trying to keep lots and lots of little libraries open is to the detriment of keeping a better service available in just a few better equipped, better resourced libraries. Obviously it's awful for people losing their jobs, it's awful for the local communities who can't travel so far, but in some cases it would make it easier for the library managers to manage their budget and to keep resources open for more people if it was just placed on a few.
Over 4,000 people took part in a questionnaire, and results showed that 71% of respondents preferred reducing the opening hours rather than seeing well-needed libraries closing down.
A quick look at the regional and international headlines. 20 years on from the death of 2-year-old James Bulger, his father Ralph says his love for his son is keeping him alive. Tonight, Ralph Bulger will release Lanterns into the Sky to remember his son. A Liverpool pub was closed today at the request of police amid fears of gang attacks. The Bridge Inn on Danville Road is thought to have links to serious crime and drugs and has been closed for public safety. This comes after a 26-year-old man was stabbed 10 times by rival gang members. And news from abroad. North Korea has drawn widespread condemnation after conducting a nuclear test in defiance of international bans. The country is now closer to developing a long-range nuclear warhead that could hit the west coast of the United States. A bill is to legalise gay marriage in the United Kingdom passed in the House of Commons this week. This is despite a widespread revolt by the Tory MPs. Nicole Addy reports.
By the end of today, MPs will have made the long-awaited decision of whether to legalise same-sex marriages. Both civil partnerships and marriages are identical in the eyes of the law. The main change is in the name and ceremony. Many Christians, however, including the newly appointed Archbishop of Canterbury, have seen the bill as a major problem. JMU went on to investigate what the people of Liverpool think of this controversial issue.
I don't agree with it. Just don't agree. Full stop.
Personal view is that this bill will be passed today and that we'll move into an era of gay marriage.
I think that it should be, because why not? They're equal to us in every other manner, so why shouldn't they? They should be allowed to adopt, they should be, yeah, definitely. Don't have anything against it whatsoever.
I don't know, I don't understand David Cameron. I think he should have more important things to be worrying about in this day and age.
I think I should have as much right as a straight couple to get married to my girlfriend as anybody else. and I think it's wrong to segregate gay people and decide that we're not allowed to have the same rights as anybody else. So I think it should be passed.
In 2004, the Civil Partnership Act gave same-sex couples the same rights as married couples, including tax, pensions and inheritance. Since the first draft, more than 50,000 people have entered into a civil partnership. Those people will now be able to get married if the bill is passed. Despite David Cameron facing losing half of his MPs ahead of the Commons vote, he says, marriage has evolved, offering it to same-sex couples will strengthen, not weaken, the institution.
Now, it may be the middle of February, but it's also the start of Chinese New Year. This weekend, dragons and dancers took to the street of Liverpool to celebrate the Year of the Snake. Sophie Grundy was among the crowds.
It's Chinese New Year, and Liverpool's residents have been out in hordes to celebrate. The city is home to the oldest Chinese community in Europe, and it has the largest multiple-span arch outside of China. It's no wonder then that the rain didn't stop people filling the streets to welcome the Year of the Snake. Colourful dragons were everywhere in Chinatown to help celebrate in the traditional way. In the heart of the celebrations, the Blackie opened its doors with its own events for the occasion.
Today at the Blackie we have a series of different events. So from about 11 o'clock when we opened, we had drum performances and we had dance, and then we had traditional Chinese drumming. And I think now actually the biggest part of this is a Tai Chi event that happens every year, and so that's for all of the afternoon for 3 hours. And I think throughout the day there's also been calligraphy workshops, and yeah, I think it's a big part of what the Blackie does because we're in the heart of Chinatown, I suppose, and it's one of the things that we've become famous for, I think. So yeah.
I do some lion dance and help people to take a picture with the lions there. Yeah, just do some volunteers here. Yeah.
Have you ever celebrated Chinese New Year before?
No, not really.
What are you going to do for the rest of the day?
I think we're going to keep enjoying it.
From us at JMU Journalism, we wish you all a happy and prosperous New Year.
Now, if you remember the 60s and the 70s, you will remember platform shoes and glitter. A new exhibition is on show at the Tate Gallery in Liverpool, showing the outrageous fashion and music of that period. The exhibit, called Glam, The Performance of Style, opens on Thursday. Our reporter, Natalie Romero, put on her dancing shoes to check it out.
The Tate Liverpool opened an ambitious new exhibition with a private viewing and launch party last week, showcasing work from over 50 artists and collections. Glam takes its starting point at the dynamic combination of art, music and fashion, which fermented in the British art school of the 1960s.
Most people think of glam rock, they think of Slade, or they think of the Sweet and bands like that in the early 1970s. A lot of people might not think of art, they might not think of visual art or modern art when they think of glam. But in fact, glam came through the British art school system. Patrick Hamilton was a central figure in the 60s in pop art when he designed things like the Beatles album, for the White Album for example. But he also taught. One of his students would have been Brian Ferry at the time, and Brian Ferry became eventually the big rock star, the big pop star that he became later on. But Patrick Hamilton said that his greatest creation, his greatest artwork was Brian Ferry. So there was a real crossover there between the art world and the music world, the world of pop music.
The exhibition will examine glam culture in New York during the period, tracing the evolution of camp and androgyny as evident in the work of artists such as Jack Smith and Andy Warhol. From the early to mid-1970s, artists in Europe and North America explored idealized states of glamour as a means to exaggerate or satirize cultural values of beauty and fashion. At the same time, others were concerned with shifting roles in relation to gender and identity. The exhibition will tour to Frankfurt in June and September 2013.
And in sport, we start with football. Liverpool's chances of success in the Premiership were damaged further last night when they were beaten 2-0 by West Brom. The Reds' defeat means they are now unlikely to qualify for Europe this season. Meanwhile, former Liverpool manager Rafa Benitez says Chelsea fans should not lose faith. He was an unlikely replacement for former manager Roberto Di Matteo when he was sacked. And in rugby, St Helens are currently top of the North West, one league with 9 games in hand. The club has a 100% record on away games and says that they are feeling confident for their next match. Now a quick look at the weather before we go. There will be mostly cloudy skies today with patches of sleet in the northwest, drifting over towards Liverpool as night approaches. Temperatures will not top a chilly 2 degrees and a flurry of snow may be expected during the early hours of tomorrow morning. That's all for now. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.